On the 34th anniversary of Poland's first post-war democratic elections, 500,000 Poles took to the streets in Warsaw on Sunday to protest the nationalist populist government. OPEC Plus producers agree to extend oil production cuts until the end of 2024 in a bid to push prices above €75 a barrel. Thousands of Polish protesters took to the streets of Warsaw on Sunday to denounce the nationalist populist government. Taking place on the 34th anniversary of Poland's first post-war democratic election, the march was called by the opposition party's leader Donald Tusk, a former prime minister and European Council president.
Polek I Polaków, którzy nie dali się złamać, nie dali się zastraszyć, nie dali się zniechęcić. Polska jest w naszych sercach i dlatego przetrwaliśmy te trudne lata. I dlatego dzisiaj, w rocznicę wolnych wyborów, w rocznicę wielkiego zwycięstwa, którego symbol i twórca stoi tu obok mnie, prezydent Lech Wałęsa.
Organizers say 500,000 Poles attended the rally and called it one of the country's largest demonstrations since the fall of communism in 1989. Saudi Arabia will reduce how much oil it sends to the global economy in a move to boost the falling cost of crude. Other producers agree to extend the earlier output cuts through to next year. According to IMF estimates, Riyadh needs an oil price above €75 a barrel to balance its budget and fund some of the giga projects that the kingdom hopes will transform its economy. On Sunday, Alexander Novak, the Russian deputy prime minister in charge of energy resources, said the extension of the cuts by OPEC Plus ensures market stability.
Dühösen és sietve hagyták el az OPEC bécsi székházat az angolai és a nigeri képviselők. Az olajexportáló országok szövetsége nem sokkal később kiadott egy közleményt, ebben azt közölték, hogy 2024-ben a mostanihoz képest 1,4 millió hordóval csökkentik a napi kitermelést, így az naponta kb. 40 millió hordó lesz. Az Euronews-t Szilágyi Károly tudósította Bécsből.
During talks in Istanbul on Sunday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg urged Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to end Turkey's resistance to Sweden's membership application. He claimed Stockholm has taken care of Turkey's security concerns regarding so-called Kurdish outlaw groups, one of the main reasons for Ankara's opposition.
Sweden has taken significant concrete steps to meet Turkey's concerns. This includes amending the Swedish constitution, ending its arms embargo, and stepping up counter-terrorism cooperation, including against the PKK. Important new terrorism legislation has come into force just a few days ago. So Sweden has fulfilled its obligations.
Meanwhile, in Stockholm, hundreds of demonstrators marched in the streets to protest against Sweden joining NATO and in support of the PKK.
The training of fresh troops is a key element of Ukraine's plans for a counter-offensive against Russia's invasion. European countries are leading the preparation of the recruits for frontline duty. Instructors from several armies are gathered in eastern Germany to teach them essential combat skills.
Tikrai kariai yra motyvuoti, įsiklauso į mūsų instruktorių pastabas ir tikrai padarė didelę pažangą. Jie aiškiai supranta savo tikslą, dėl ko jie kariauja, ir puikiai supranta savo pareigą ginti savo шаль.
Звісно, є, тому що зараз вже йде війна. Я там побув, я бачив, які втрати несуться, які чинники призводять до цих втрат. Тут нас вчать запобігти цьому, при цьому виконувати бойові завдання, як належить.
German officers say the biggest challenge is the timeline. In just 4 weeks, raw recruits with no previous experience of weapons or tactics must be prepared for deployment to a war zone. The mission is extremely intense and almost non-stop, but the trainees are determined to succeed.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says he's open to speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin again in due course. When Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began in February 2022, many leaders were having direct talks with the Russian president in an effort to negotiate an end to the hostilities. But as the war intensified, it became clear that discussions were not possible, as what Putin appears to want is not up for negotiations.
His whole motive has been to actually destroy the sovereignty and the independence and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Indeed, destroy Ukraine itself. Look what the militias and the armies have done to the culture, to the infrastructure, to the energy, to schools, to hospitals, to buildings, to the civilian infrastructure. It's called destruction.
But for other experts, Germany's apparent willingness to restart talks makes sense.
It's fine for Scholz to try. I think his logic is that by that stage, Putin must have understood that he's getting nowhere with that war, that he is stuck. That is, of course, true. But Putin probably does not see it that way. So I don't think it will be fruitful, but I don't think it is harmful either.
Whether direct talks between Russia and Western nations could resume in the next few months is uncertain. But that's not the only form of diplomacy ongoing.
This UN Atomic Energy Agency has been incredibly crucial for keeping actually Europe safe as well and preventing any kind of nuclear catastrophe. And in that sense, that is a kind of diplomacy. And of course, there's the diplomacy working over the continued export of Ukrainian grain, not only to Europe, but to the Middle East and to other countries.
As the war in Ukraine continues, Europeans are already worrying about the impact it will have on energy next winter. Will Europe's gas storage tanks be full enough to avoid power cuts at the height of the cold season? For many experts, the energy crisis is not over.
Pour résoudre une crise énergétique, il faut investir dans de la production supplémentaire. Et ça, pour le moment, on ne l'a pas fait. Pour le moment, ce qu'a fait la Commission européenne, c'est on a mis de la subvention pour aider nos compatriotes à faire face à ces factures qui avaient complètement flambé, mais on n'a pas lancé de nouveaux projets.
To adapt to the massive reduction in Russian gas deliveries, the European Union has opted for energy sobriety and turned to other suppliers, massively increasing its imports of liquefied natural gas, particularly from the USA. This race for LNG has led to an explosion in the need for LNG terminals. Germany built 3 in January alone. As a result of this strategy of adaptation, gas stocks in the European Union stood at around 68% on May the 30th, a high level for the period. But despite this, experts have not yet ruled out the worst-case scenario for the coming cold season. Among the aggravating factors, a harsh winter, but also hot spells.
C'est la manière dont cet été, une sécheresse qui est assez plausible pourrait créer un stress hydrique, un stress sur les niveaux d'eau en Europe, avec une influence à la fois sur l'hydroélectricité, mais également sur la production électronucléaire. Donc ça, c'est un facteur qui est important. Alors ça n'aurait pas d'effet direct sur la consommation de gaz, mais un effet indirect parce que dans ce cas-là, eh bien, on recourrait dans le système électrique à plus de gaz pour produire de l'électricité.
The International Energy Agency has identified another threat to Europe's energy security, increasing demand for natural gas from China and increasing competition in the energy markets that Russia could play on.